Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to the briefing. We, the Admiralty Board and General Staff, are aware that there has been a certain outcry among our more militaristic citizens regarding our recent truce with the Biluan mind. We understand that without pushing our advantage, we give the mind a chance to recover. But, as we hope this briefing will prove, we simply don't have enough knowledge to make a decisive move on them. So, without further ado, this is newly declassified reconnaissance report from Task Force Manticore. During their raid on Biluan space, our Navy has deployed thousands of recon probes to the surface of Biluan planet, and most of them it was business as usual, hatcheries, ramshackle buildings, nutrient farms and the like. What we learned there was that Biluans appear to be able to survive in environments that would be deadly or extremely uncomfortable for other species, like barren, atmosphereless planets. One question that remains unanswered, however, is whether these planets were barren before, or were their resources depleted as a result of Biluan endless hunger. That, paired with data we got from their homeworld, Voice, was enough to convince the High Command to postpone the invasion, at least until we figure out what the hell we saw down there. First, when Manticore approached Voice, one thing became obvious even before we reached the orbit. There were almost no signs of civilization on the surface of Biluan home planet. When you think of spacefaring civilizations, you expect cities, skyscrapers, massive industrial areas and the like. But on the Voice, aside from several landing zones for orbital shuttles, there is no such thing. No infrastructure, no buildings, no farms, nothing. And to make it even more bizarre, there is also no movement on the surface, no mag trains transporting walkers, no trucks ferrying goods, not even as much as foot traffic. If anything, when looked at from outside, Voice could reasonably pass as an uninhabited world. Unfortunately, this is not the case. At first, Manticore recon teams believed that Biluans may live underground similar to us, and deployed their probes to the surface, and that is when we realized we have absolutely no idea with what we're dealing here. Again, when you think of a habitable world, you think about grass, rivers or forests. Instead, the surface of Voice, aside from polar caps and some larger bodies of water, is covered in a flesh-like organic substance. This is where we uncovered the first revelation. Our probes collected samples of this biomass and, after running several tests in Manticore's labs, we confirmed that this biological material has exactly the same composition as Biluans themselves. To put it simply, the planet is covered in Biluan tissue, but how is it possible we cannot tell. We also cannot tell if it actually is covered in said tissue or is it fully made out of it. After that first revelation, Manticore deployed another set of drones and used their geological drills to carve 10 kilometers deep into the surface. And, despite these 10 kilometers, all they found was more of that biomass. No soil, no rocks, no minerals. What was uncovered, however, was that form of this biological material changes drastically 2 kilometers from the surface. On the ground level, it is similar to skin, relatively solid and resilient, but underneath that outer layer, there is a swirling, liquid-like ocean of this biomass, constantly moving in all directions, transferring nutrients and information to wherever they are needed. We suspect that all those abducted by the mind end down there, adding their own organic material to the overall biomass. What is below all that, we do not know, but the implications are not optimistic. At best, an entire outer layer of the world is covered in this biomass. At worst, we're looking at a living, organic entity the size of a planet, something that may be well beyond our ability to either tame or destroy. And destroying it may prove to be far more difficult than we initially thought. We knew that Biluan assault swarms were dangerous opponents, and as our probes gathered samples, we learned that Voice has means of creating its warriors practically on the spot. As soon as our mining drills pierced through the outer layer of this skin, Biluan warrior drones started appearing from underground, or so we thought at first. Upon closer examination, we realized that they are molded on the spot, with parts of the surface separating itself and growing into fully functional drones within less than a minute. And I'm sure I don't have to say what it means. If we land our forces on the surface, the enemy will be able to just swarm them with warriors appearing right beneath our feet. Even more so, we have no idea just how many of these drones Voice can create at once. Millions, billions more. Given the size and mass of the planet, we may be looking at tens or even hundreds of billions of warriors. And what's worse, we do not even know if they could be permanently eliminated. As our probes defended themselves, we learned that whenever one of these drones falls, the surface just absorbs its body and replaces them with another one. If that's what we're looking at, it may be that the only way of dealing with Biluan Homeworld will be complete planetary annihilation, a process that, with our current technology, would take years, if not decades. Finally, there is another issue, a background one. For some reason, the planet itself is singing, so to speak. It emanates a constant droning sound, extremely loud and uncomfortable on the surface, and even audible in the orbit, and its very presence is enough to cause headaches in most of our people, as well as severe migraines in all with psionic abilities. Whether this sound is some form of communication, a warning sign, or perhaps even a background noise of a huge organism simply existing is anyone's guess, but at this point it's the angle we're going to pursue. If the mind can communicate through this noise, perhaps we could contact it on our own terms and try to understand it, and if not, well, it's maybe necessary for us to expand our nuclear arsenal even more in order to remove them from this galaxy, if it's even possible. But the truth is that we simply have no idea what we're dealing with here, and unless we learn something conclusive, we're not going to risk sending any of our troops there, which is why, effective immediately, Biluan space, as well as all bordering systems, will remain off-limits to all without level 0 security clearance from the Council. Additionally, a number of researchers from Bioshock Division, as well as top members of Task Force Ethereal, will be deployed to Biluan space in order to learn whatever we can about the mind. That is all. Dismissed.